Hello, everybody. My name is Antonio Tomasini, and today I'll be talking about climate politics and the Paris Agreement. So some background information before I get started on the Paris Agreement and the climate politics. The Paris Agreement is not the first international agreement on climate or the environment. There's been a couple other summits and meetings about it, either small or big. One pretty considerable one was in 1992. President George H.W. Bush and 107 other heads of states met in Rio Earth Summit and adopted the environmental agreement, including the UNFCCC. And it's still in the use today, and it's a framework for other environmental summits today. Another one that we'll be talking about is the Kyoto Protocol. The Kyoto Protocol was in 1997. It did not take effect in 2005. And it's the first in its kind to acquire hard dates and hard executions of what it was asking. So some background information. Some definitions. What is climate politics and the Paris Agreement? To break it down, not read you the definitions, climate politics is the mood that society is feeling within the individual government, or it could be in a world standpoint too, but how their people are feeling about how people are taking care of the world. And the Paris Agreement, just to break down, is a legally binding treaty that was adopted by 109, almost 200 parties in 2015 and didn't come into effect until 2016. There's a quick little video.
Future. You leave your house and the air is clean and fresh. We've cut air pollution and worked together to restore the forests and ecosystems that we've lost over the past decades and centuries. Oceans are healthy again, thriving, teeming with life. Soils have regenerated, bursting with fertility, and producing bigger crop yields for everyone. And as you leave your house, you get in a car or bus that's clean and electric, and it takes you wherever you want to go. And the rooftops of the buildings around you are green and living, all doing their part to keep global temperatures low. So is this some impossible utopia? No, not at all. It's absolutely possible. And we already have the map that gets us there, the Paris Climate Agreement. Almost 200 countries have already signed on. Every 5 years, each nation has to report back on how they're reducing their carbon footprint and what they're doing to keep global temperatures from rising more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. These nations have to show how they are building resilience, saving lives, and protecting property against the increasing number of storms, droughts, and fires and floods. Signing on to the Paris Agreement is legally binding, and no one gets a pass, not even the biggest countries like China, India, Russia, the US, nor the small island states and the rest of the world. The Paris Agreement lets countries chart their own course to net zero emissions. It is up to nations, businesses, and people to find new ways of doing things. Everything from energy creation to transportation, manufacturing, and farming. This will spark a huge economic boom for the rest of the century. And it's already happening. New markets for everything from solar panels, electric cars, and energy-efficient appliances are creating greener jobs everywhere. This is personal for me. I don't want to choke on the air I breathe or see wildfires burning out of control. I don't want a world that is parched by drought. So for me and for everyone, the Paris Agreement is the way forward. This is how we can get to a world free from the threat of climate change. And we can definitely do it. We know it's in our grasp. So let's keep working together. You too can protect what is left and repair what has been damaged. So help me spread the word by posting your support of the Paris Agreement.
So I like that video because it was done by the UN, and it really does to give a quick overview of the Paris Agreement. Earlier I mentioned the Kyoto Protocol, and I'm going to be doing some, versus against the Paris Agreement. So, like I mentioned before, the protocol had hard deadlines and hard restrictions sent on each country that was a part of it. This was good because it made sure people got ahead and got on top of what they need to do when they're in the Kyoto Protocol. One factor that the Paris Agreement points for that the Kyoto Protocol really didn't. It makes every country do to their own discretion how much they want to do. There's no hard deadline set. There's no hard environmental structures. So it equates for more of everybody. So it equates for the rich and poor, and the developing countries, because obviously more developing countries are probably going to use greenhouse gases more than developed countries. However, it would be easier for these developing countries to switch over to electric or wind turbine or solar panel options more than developed countries that have already had this for decades. So that's a little bit about both of those. So just a main recap of the Paris Agreement, just to sum up some points. So the main target is preventing global climate by raising more than 2 degrees Celsius. So before that target was made up because that was before the industrial boom. So these are levels that were taken before then, and we're just trying to limit the amount of greenhouse gases. Number two, each country makes up their own plan, and it only gets checked up on every 5 years, which is very important. And the reason this is important because it's not fair. It's not fair for some countries to be doing less amount of work than others, and it's not fair that other countries have more money to spend on it. So I think it does need some hard deadlines and some hard, some goals, some common goals, than other than you get to make your own plan. We'll see how you're doing in 5 years. There has to be some more structure to it. And then finally, and I think this is one of the more important topics, is how it's measured. So you have to support the greenhouse gas emissions targeting measurement. So you have to use this system to be a part of the Paris Agreement. So you can't use a different measurement, which is good. And this is one of many ways of measuring. I'm just gonna take a second to drink that. So this is a chart, which I really like. It is a little dated. It started in 2017. It ended in 2018. So it's only four years old almost. It's done by AEI, which is a Greek company. So it's the 10 biggest reductions in CO2 emissions, and the 10 most increasing in CO2 emissions. So you can see United States, on a good note, is leading the charge behind Ukraine and Mexico. But then you go down to the bottom of it, you see China, India, and Turkey. Just incredible. I mean, China's at 122 million tons of just CO2 being released in the atmosphere. It doesn't equate for any other greenhouse gases, which is astronomical. I think it's important to everybody that calls this place home, and hopefully that's everyone in this class. This is important to all of us. We only get one planet. And I think the important standpoint of it is that, we could see our governments are finally, not even just America, but governments around the world are taking a step forward in the right direction and putting their efforts into, change. And it might be for economic standpoints, it might be for a lot of other standpoints, but the end goal is what we need. We need to save this planet. Uh, change for businesses. Change is important. Now they have to be. They had been operating in any way, shape, form that they wanted to, but now when they're pledging to join the Paris Agreement or the American Business Act, which I will talk about later. Uh, they have to restructure how their business was how the business was shaped. And now instead of just worrying about your end goal of your business and your shareholders, now you have to always worry about the environmental impact you're doing on top of it, which is good. That's really good. You can't just be reaping the rewards of the environment and expect nothing to happen in return. So some other things that I think is important that the Paris Agreement does impact businesses is operation impact. Nearly 3 in 10 organizations are noticing that the operation impact of the climate has disrupted and has such damaged factory and the workforce. So it's not all good right now. Maybe it will get better. Scarcity and cost of resources. Resources like food, water, energy are at risk, and due to both environmentally and human causes, with the energy and consumption of industrial reportings are even greater. Policies are inconsiderable. So thirdly, the policies are getting really strict, and the businesses said they can't get around it. Their companies, if they build newer factories, and they don't have the money for it, so they have to take out more loans from the